tuning from one reference note. Another variant is when you take one reference note from the outside and then tune everything internally from that. Here again, which note you take and where you take it from, that depends on what you're going to do. You can take it from another instrument. It's become traditional in modern times to use a tuning fork. There are various sorts here too. This one is round, the other is square. It's anybody's guess whether it makes any difference. These days, tuning forks are usually made for the note A, but I've also got one for the note C, and you can get all sorts. And then the question is, which A? Nowadays, if you look up in an encyclopedia, maybe it says that the note you tune to is the A which vibrates 440 times a second. But there are lots and lots of variations. For example, in the English brass band world, the reference note was always much higher, which means you can't play those instruments together with orchestral ones. And I heard, for example, that the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra want so much excitement and tension that they use an A so high that the wind instruments, clarinets and flutes, have to be specially made for that orchestra. But we can say that A at 440 is the most common. It normally says on the fork itself which note it plays, in this case A, and how high that note is, in this case A at 440. You can hit on something made of wood, or on your knee, and you can hear it straight in your ear, or you can put it against something to hear it more clearly. And if you're brave, you can put it against your teeth. And then it resonates throughout your whole body, a delightful experience. Then the next question is whether you can tune to the memory of that note. Otherwise you can have it sounding at the same time as the note you're tuning. There are lots of other sounds you can use as a reference note. The telephone usually sounds an A. I heard that mine is noticeably flatter, lower than this A, but you can recognise that it is an A. You can tune to it if you have nothing else. There are electronic tuners if you want to go down that road. There are computer programs which can listen to what you do and show on the screen what it thinks about that. I don't like these electronic machines because I want to know that it's right. That it's right because I feel good in my body according to what I know and experience. They depend a lot on the eye too. It's the machine that listens and you look. So the musician doesn't listen at all. How musical is that experience? Tuning to the interval of 5 notes, fifths. Now I'm going to take one tuning note from the harmonium like I did before. And if we say that the first time I tuned from the memory of what a tune sounds like, now I'm going to tune to harmony, the interaction between two notes sounding at the same time. And it turns out that the most basic interval is with two tones that are 5 notes apart. So that was the interval of 4 notes, so it needs to go further up. The point here is that when you play one note, you don't hear one note, you hear lots of notes at once. If I touch the string in the middle, that note also sounds when I play the basic note. I think you can hear it. They sound together. If I divide the string in 3, I don't need to touch the string twice, once is enough. The string vibrates as 3 separate parts. And that note sounds too when I play the basic note. And I think you can hear that too. So now I'll tune the second note. so that it's the same height as the one which is contained in the note I started with. So there is an objective measure of when things are in tune and when they aren't. You can feel discomfort because the two notes vibrate against one another, in a way that the old teachers called ill-sounding dissonance. But then when you get near the right note, everything becomes very calm. And in the end, you just know that now it's right. So we'll go up 5 notes from our second note to our third. The interval we use, the distance from one note to the next, is from the first note to the fifth note, nota prima till nota quinta, which the musicians shorten to fifth, meaning the distance to the fifth note. So here we have a fifth, the distance between 5 notes, which is properly in tune. And then one more built on top of the first, also properly in tune. And again one more. And again one more. And then everything must be just fine, mustn't it? But unfortunately it isn't. This distance is so wide that it vibrates in a rather uncomfortable way. For these two to sound good together, the upper one would need to be much lower. About there. And it is quite simply a law of nature that if you build up fifths like that, as the ancient Greeks did, and as they did in the Middle Ages, then the interval of 3 notes that you get, do, re, mi, la, da, da, do, re, mi, nota tertia, the distance to the third note, the third, that ends up far too high, and you would need to lower it for it to feel good. So, do we have any use at all of this fifth tuning? Yes, indeed, for during the Middle Ages they used fifths at all the main points. So if you're going to play medieval music on your harp, then this fifth tuning is just what you need. Now you can hear rather clearly how sharp a medieval third is. So now I'll continue with these fifths. And now we have the note C, D, E. We haven't got an F, and we get that by going down from C.